Okay, everybody in the club, bottle full of bum. I got what you need. Welcome to another episode of The Superficial Spirit with my early risers on the West Coast, Jess and Derek. How are you both?
Hi.
Hey.
That's good. And you have your coffee. Derek, I saw you sipping something, assuming it's not wine.
It's coffee. I can't show you without spilling it. There we go. Brown juice.
Please don't spill it.
Morning brown.
Oh my God,
morning
Jess,
brown.
you went to the store.
Whoa. You really are up.
Yeah, so every Friday through Sunday, my husband and I, we treat ourselves to special lattes.
What? How is it? Why is it special? Just because it's a latte?
Well, just because we don't make lattes at home. So
what flavor did you get?
So now you think I wake up super early and now you want to podcast earlier.
This is as early as we're doing.
No, I won't force you all to do it at 6 a.m. But if I do move to the West Coast, maybe.
Well, then we'll all be doing it at 9 instead of us at 9 and you at 12.
I wake up at 6 during the week and I woke up at 7 today. But I would want to have like a coffee first.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to wake up and immediately come to my computer and do it. No. No.
Would you guys ever move to the US?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, Peter. No.
Somebody outside is feeling very strong about that.
Stop it. It's just they're just trying to pass each other on the narrow street outside. It's like, calm
Get
down. You only
way.
need to honk once. Like one little boop is fine. Early road rage. Jeez.
You know, when I was growing up, I thought like I wanted to live in LA so bad. Like it was the only thing I wanted in my life was to be. I didn't really think of like being American, but when I did buy a one-way ticket to LA, I thought that once I got there, I could just go to the Canadian embassy and ask. I actually did do this. Ask them, how do I like live here permanently? How do I become American? And they're like, are you kidding? Like, I waited all day. I got this fucking number and they're like, do you have any forms? Did you talk to a lawyer? And I'm like, no, I just want to be famous. And that's when I realized it was so hard. Now, not so much. I don't really have a reason. If I had a job that was like, we need you to move to somewhere, I would consider it, I guess.
If you have like a work permit.
Yeah, I wouldn't
that's how I would want to do it. I would need to I'd need to be being brought over by work so that it was all just like settled for me and stable and like set. When I was in LA earlier this year, I was like Airbnb-ing with like one of those situations where the host is like in the house and he was like, oh, like you seem like you belong in LA. And I was like, maybe I do. So I don't know. And I don't know. I felt good. I liked it there. It's so interesting. Like everywhere you look, there's something characterful and different in a city like LA, you know, and even in our biggest cities here in Canada, like Toronto or Vancouver, they're pretty like modern, designed intentionally. They didn't just spring up out of necessity the way that American cities, which are like 100 years older or more, have done, you know. They haven't just developed sort of naturally. They've been sort of intentionally designed. And there's something more boring about that. It's more interesting the way they're in America. They have just sprung up sort of supernaturally around like a water source or a harbor, you know, that kind of thing.
Got it.
What made you ask,
Steve and
Jess?
Huh?
What made you ask if we wanted to move to America or if we would?
I don't know. I forget why I asked.
Are you plotting? You're like, there's that place right beside me. That's
because you said, maybe you'll move. So I was like, wait,
to the West Coast.
Move here? I know to the West Coast.
Yeah,
but like West Coast to me is California, baby. There's nothing else on the West Coast.
Yeah, totally.
But I think Steve and I were talking about something political and like, do we need to like move to Canada? I'm like, how would we even move there? And I was like, wait, hear me out. I marry Peter, you marry Evan. We get there, like we divorce them in a couple of years.
I mean, people literally do that. People do that. I literally know like an English guy who did exactly that to live here in Canada.
Oh my God.
I know more than one person who's done that.
I know.
Speaking,
I was going to say my ex got married to his now husband in California. They met in school in New York, got married very quickly. And I always thought it was so that he could be American, but they're still together. So what do I know? And that was
Love
like,
wins.
love wins. Love is love. Love is love. That's actually what the movie was about last night that I want to start with today is Bros. The whole concept is you know what Bros is, obviously. It's a gay rom-com. I think we talked about it very briefly in the last episode, or maybe it was in the DMs. Derek, you had alluded to Bros, but you haven't
There was a
seen
mention
it,
of
right?
it. Yeah, we had mentioned
Okay.
it. You had mentioned it in one of the shows or something. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
it's this Judd Apatosaurus gay rom-com. Yeah.
So the whole it starts where, you know, the lead character is in a movie studio office with a big exec, and they're like, we just want to make a movie that shows that gay couples are the same as straight couples. Love is love. And he's like, love is not just love. There are differences. And then the whole movie is like him meeting this guy and the nuances of dating. And I laughed the whole time. I don't typically go to comedies, like I'll go to horror. That's pretty much it, or like one of the big superhero movies with Evan, or like sci-fi, but not very often comedy. So I was really excited. I went with like a couple of my friends, and a few things happened to me when I was watching it. Like, I feel like we are in this space now where there is more representation in media for gay men, because that's what I am. So I'll talk to that. More than when I was growing up, certainly. And whenever I see something that I really like, I feel conflicted, because part of me is so happy that it's happening, but a part of me is like wishing I was just being born now so that I could really reap the rewards of like growing up in a more inclusive world. Like, I always look back, if I was growing up and I would have had Drag Race on TV, my obsession 100%, I would have been like, I'm going to be a drag queen instead of I'm going to be a pop star, because it would have felt so much more accessible, because the people were like me. They're gay, they're flamboyant, they perform, but it wasn't available. And there was a scene in the movie where this isn't really a spoiler. It's just sort of like one of the characters talking about his experience. Like, he went to performing arts school and he wanted to be a writer. And throughout his whole journey, there was constantly these subtle, like death by a thousand cuts, these little comments about, you know, don't use your gay voice, or you're too flamboyant, or like, we love you but tone it down, that kind of messaging, which made him into this resentful, bitchy older gay guy who's like trying to shove queer history down everyone's throat, because it's like a rebellion. Like, fuck you, we're here, we belong, this is what you've done, in every single interaction, where it's like, okay, you need to calm down. But it made me realize, when I was in film school with you, Derek, I was so shameless about the fact that I wanted to be famous. And every single teacher was like, well, the first thing is you need to learn how to play it straight. And I used to get into fights with them. And I think back even further than that, to high school, where it was like, I was performing all the time and people were like supportive, but it wasn't really taken seriously. It was sort of like the trope of being a gay guy who's dancing. And now that I'm in my 30s, I look back and see how, even though those moments did make me resilient and like bigger and ambitious, like I wanted to succeed, it actually internally made me shrink, because I felt like, if you look at when I was in VFS and was in film school, and I was really trying to like figure out how I can structure my dreams in a realistic way, I was getting told you're too gay, essentially, by agents, by casting directors, and by acting teachers. That's also when I started partying the most and put all of my attention into being this fucking messy, crazy club kid, that I was saying, and it was an authentic expression of what I was going through. But had I been supported in a way that was like, you're queer, you're femme, that's great. Like, let's build on that. Let's use that to your art. Maybe my 20s wouldn't have been so destructive. And I am only able to have these thoughts now because I have some distance, and because of queer storytelling in the movies, where I'm like, damn, that is my story. But it's so rare that I see that story on screen that I'm not able to have that moment of self-reflection, even though I am kind of obsessed with myself in the way that I want to know why I'm doing things. Why am I inspired by this? Why am I doing this? What is spirituality? Blah, blah, blah. So I left feeling like it was a great movie, and a lot of like really big emotions about like, wow, the world is coming so far, but am I missing out? Like, did I give up too soon? Should I have kept trying to perform? Because now all these people are in their 40s and 50s, queer artists who are like blossoming, because now Hollywood can accept them. And so I constantly have that like, yay for the youth, but like, I'm so jealous of you, because they're growing up at a time where they can go to film school and they can be queer and they can become movie stars. And it's
Well,
like,
don't give up on your dreams, because Billy Eichner's got to be 45, right? Why are they all Billies? Billy Porter has got to be 60. You know what I mean? And they're only just having a moment. So I would say it's never too late to dream.
it is never too late to dream. And I believe that, but also it is counterintuitive to what we interpret as success. I mean, maybe this is just me, but like I really equated the peak of success as like being a young, famous person. I know that that's not true now, but I think internally is like, well, no, I can still be successful in life. I just can't be a creative success, or I can't be like a star, because that period, like only young people can become famous. Even though I know you're right, Derek, you're completely right. That is happening. Look at RuPaul was famous in her 20s, but she didn't come into her real stardom until 40s or 50s. There's lots of people like that. T.S. Madison, fucking legend. So you're right, but it's two conflicting messages. One, it has to happen when you're young, otherwise you're already washed up. And two, as gay men, we really value youth and beauty. And once you get into your 30s, it's like the thought of putting myself out there is even scarier, because wow, that's not what people want to see.
I just think it is, actually. I just those especially, you can be old and flamboyant. Not that that's what I'm describing you, Peter, but I'm just saying, like, again, Billy Porter's very old and very flamboyant, and these are the types of people who are getting foregrounded now, only because they just happen to be that age when now it's okay to be that queer. It's really saddening, though, your experience at VFS, and I know that I can validate that, because I heard stuff like that too. I just heard them throw that around a lot. The stuff like, if you just won't get work if you can't like if you're like really flamboyantly gay, you're not going to get work. And while that, I mean, I guess at the time that was true in Vancouver, because Vancouver's film industry is like a service one where they just backfill like unimportant roles in a show, right? Like they don't cast stars in Vancouver for anything. They cast security guard number one and so on. So, I mean, in a way that was true. And I know they thought they were being realistic, but that sounds really damaging, and it makes me really sad to hear, especially now that it's 14 years later, that you actually can be exactly who you are, and there is a place for that.
Yeah, and it's, oh man, it stings when you look back and you see things through the lens of like, oh shit, maybe my like shameless partying wasn't just how I was choosing to express myself. It was like repressed shame meeting, I believe that I can do something amazing, but I'm not able to confidently do it without drugs, alcohol, and the whole entire club scene fucking supporting me.
Well, and it's just a microcosm of the greater world at large at that time, which was telling us all, like, your hideous deformity has to at least be hidden from the world to be acceptable.
Or modified. Or you're like a queer eye for the straight guy, like, or Jack on Will and Grace. Because those were the only two examples we have. And now it's, even if you look at like pop culture, there are starting to be queer superstars, but not in the same way that like Madonna and like the iconic people who will never leave they're burned into our minds. I guess Elton John, Lil Nas X is quite scandalous, Orville Peck, but these people are not at the same level. They're not doing stadiums. They're not Taylor Swift. Can we have a singer-songwriter who is Taylor Swift, but queer and like being, sorry, Derek, that was so funny.
The cat just knocked something off of the counters.
I didn't see.
Oh, just how you muted and you were like, stop it. Oh my God. That was so funny. Yeah, like we've come a long way, but are we ready for like the big queer icons that aren't Drag Race superstars? We'll see.
Yeah. And again, I still think, and here's the thing, I'm gonna go see Bros. I think I have faith that it will be funny and relatable. Like I don't think Judd Apatow is the producer on this, and I think Billy Eichner as the writer. I think he wrote it. I don't think they're really going to screw it up. I think it will be relatable. I think it will probably be very funny. But I also I feel as though it came at it's coming pretty late in the arc of gay acceptance, right? It's like over 10 years since, at least since Obergefell in the States, which was 2008, right? So like it couldn't be safer, right? It could not be safer
Mhm.
to do a gay rom-com with two, I think, white leads, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I just, so that's great, representation, whatever. But again, like you talk about, Taylor Swift, doing her thing, like when it couldn't have been safer for Taylor Swift to put out her pro-gay song, right? Nobody's
Totally.
taking any risks either, which to me is a little like I can't just totally sing the praises of a product like this when it's not very daring to me. Like something that's daring, I would say, is probably, and I know I talked about how I think Ryan Murphy is bad last time, but a show like Pose, which is foregrounding trans women of color and giving them producer and writing roles as well as lead acting roles, right? Something like that,
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah.
worth, really, I guess, giving its flowers. Whereas, okay, bros, it'll probably be funny. I'll probably like it, but I can't go out on a limb and describe it as groundbreaking. That's for sure.
It didn't feel groundbreaking, certainly not groundbreaking, but it did feel like the most accurate snapshot of what I feel like gay life is today. A lot of talk about Grindr, a lot of talk about flaky people, like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Dick pic. Like it was, and then like they go on their first date and it's to a sex party. And then like, their friend is in a throuple, like all of these things that are so normal for us to talk about to our gay friends that maybe Jess, you'll go and see it and you're like, oh my God, this is like wild. But
Well,
it's
that
not.
I was going to ask that actually, because when someone says rom-com, I think of like the early 2000s, 90s, like straight couple rom-coms that you're watching when you're younger, but then finally you get to like my age, almost 40, and then you're like, wait, like that isn't real. You don't just, have serendipity and like bump into somebody walking backwards, shopping for eggs in the grocery store. So then myself and many others were growing up watching these things, thinking that's how you meet somebody and like love is serendipitous. And so that was going to be my question to you. Is it like traditional rom-coms where, yes, maybe like young men will watch this and like think like, oh, like that's how it happens, but it sounds like it's a little bit more true to what's actually
It's true in the
happening in the
sense
world.
that, like, I love that they showed the main character is 40. He's been single his whole life. He is very open about the fact that like my and this is a very common, based on my experience, that people that I'm friends with experience is like long-term relationships are harder to come by, and it's a lot of casual sex, and then you get your emotional fulfillment from like your close friends. And so the whole exploratory thing in the movie was like, how do you overcome that? But they do it through a comedic lens. But it is very true, because seems to be hard to navigate the like the hypersexualized, super party focused part of the community when everybody actually wants to be in love, wants to feel connected. And I feel like the movie comments on it in a great way that makes it less sad. But I went with a friend who is in his 40s and is single, has been looking for love for a long time, similar to the main character, hasn't had a boyfriend. So this is a big thing in his life. It's hard. It's hard to feel like he can't meet people. He doesn't, he goes on dates. And this is something that happens to a lot of people in the community. So when he left, he actually said, I feel so validated and I feel like it's not so serious. Like it doesn't have to be so sad. It happens. It's okay. There's a lot of parts of our community that maybe can be problematic, but they can also be funny too. And maybe if we weren't so serious about it, it would take away the sadness. But the undercurrent of the narrative is very sad, like very lonely people, very insecure people, trying to connect without really wanting to show themselves at the same time. And I think, how do you fall in love and find that Hollywood, the world slows down and there's fireworks, if you
Exactly.
can't really show who you are, because you need some vulnerability to have that connection. And I don't even know if they got that. I mean, I think they really got close, but did I leave feeling like there's hope for everybody? I just feel like they did a good job of, I think, a snapshot of what it's like to be a single gay man who's somewhat open to looking for love, but is not a hopeless romantic by any stretch of the imagination.
And they didn't make it into some weird fairy tale where it's like,
No, I mean,
again,
there's
like
definitely
past
like
rom-coms.
no, definitely not a fairy tale. I mean, definitely,
Good.
yeah, the movie ends and you're like, I don't think that would actually happen, but it is a movie, so you want some entertainment. You don't want it to be so serious that or so
Right.
realistic that you're like, damn. But it was playful, like, and to your point, Derek, yeah, they're two white cis gay guys. T.S. Madison is in it. She's so funny. They have a great supporting cast of like everybody LGBT, and they're constantly fighting with each other, and it's fucking hysterical. Very, very like commenting on like woke culture and like social media online justice warriors and like, yeah, it was. I think you both should see it, and I'm curious if straight people will go and see it. Like people who aren't connected to gay men, will they be inclined to go see that? Like Jess, I can see you wanting to go. You're friends with us, and maybe
Well,
that's
yeah, I
why.
didn't realize it was only in the theater. So as soon as you said something last night, I'm like, Steve, let's watch this. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, it's only in the theater. So I think I will wait for it to come out. But as soon as it does, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Yeah. The
I
theater
have
was all gay guys.
I have plans to this week or next week, I guess. Yeah. So I'm curious, do you think, Peter, after watching it, that it sounds like, you know, there's a lot that's relatable and kind of in jokey for gay people. Do you think that straight people will have a good time? Do you think they'll connect with enough of it
I felt
that
like
they'll be funny and
yes,
they'll get it?
I do, because they're the main character's close friend is like a straight woman who has a husband and kids. So they're in it a lot, and you see her navigate the nuances of gay life, like bottoming, group sex, Grindr, partying, all of these things that are so normal for us. And she navigates it very normally. That I mean is true to what I've experienced. So I think that they do a good job of really focusing on some I think would make straight people uncomfortable, like the group sex scene. Like I just assume people are always grossed out by anything gay sex related. But I think they present it
I
in
don't like hetero sex scenes. Like I'm always like, I don't want to watch. I don't know. So we'll see. I'm definitely gonna try to watch it, but I don't even like.
It's not hardcore. It's like very comedy in the lens of like it's sex scenes, but it's not like intense fucking like, oh my god, this is like, it's not like an HBO sex scene. It's like a comedy.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't
sex
even
scene.
like to watch. What is that? Not Lord of the Rings. What's the other one?
Oh,
Game of
House of
Thrones.
Dragon, Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
That is way
I'm
more
like,
intense.
no, it's just
yeah,
all
well,
like
that's
sex
incest.
scenes. Like I'm like, I
That's
don't want to watch this.
So I think that they'll leave, like, if you're a straight person and you go and see Bros and you have no reference to what it is, that you kind of loosely know what Grindr is, but that's it. And then you suddenly hear about polyamory and thruples and group sex and all of this. It might be like a little shocking, but hopefully lighthearted enough that it's not like those people are deviants and no wonder they're lonely. I hope, but I guess it's a possibility. Like they talk about Hallmark a lot. Like they reference Hallmark trying to do like the gay love story, but like so superficially. And they have like the oh my god, what was it? The polyamory Christmas movie, A Very Merry Polly Christmas, and it's like 7 people like walking through. Oh my, it's just so funny. And they're like, finally, just the 7 of us together at Christmas, and it's like it's so funny because you meet people who are in polyamorous relationships, and you're like, how does that work? So if you're even one step further removed, where you're not exposed to that on a regular basis, it would be like, wow, what the fuck? But that is very common. Maybe not very common, but common.
We'll let you know after I watch it once it comes out.
Yes, I'm curious to hear what both of
on
you
a
think.
streaming.
Yeah.
I have like
And there was also,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say there was previews for like all the commercials before the movies, all queer. Drag queen in every commercial. Like every preview for the movie was a gay story. So I definitely felt like, wow, this is very, very focused on me. It's not very often you go to the movie and it's like everything is for queer people.
Wow.
So it's quite a ride.
Corporations have really harnessed the pink dollar.
Yes, honey.
They have really focused their ability to squeeze the pink dollar out of a particular niche audience. Finally, it's about time. Welcome to the cesspool, gay people. It sucks here. Welcome to commodified identity.
Yeah, like
You've
the
been
drag
missing
queen in
out.
the TD commercial where she's like, like doing a drag queen thing. Yeah, it was yeah, it was a night out at the movies. I don't know what else to say. I hope you both see it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And we'll see how it's received. Hopefully lots of people like it.
Yeah, I think it's being
And
received pretty well
yeah.
critically. I'm sure that I'm sure I will relate very strongly to the whole like thread of aging whilst gay and single. You know, I experienced like some panic about some like part of my like physical appeal that's like declining like on a weekly basis. I like notice a like new spot of hair that's flying off of my head at like an alarming rate, you know, or like wrinkles that I'm like, oh man, like I got so much other priorities before more Botox this month in terms of like my finances. Oh God, like what am I gonna do? Like stuff like that. Oh,
Yeah.
it's getting harder to like maintain a, you know, physique. Like and then like of course this all sounds shallow. Of course this all sounds, but that's the point. The point is this is what gay people like focus on and value in terms of like, you know, attractiveness and youth, right? Being paramount. So yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. I think like the two like parts of gay culture that I think that I see most in my friends that worry me the most is loneliness and meth addiction are the two things that I feel like maybe are not as, when it comes to mainstream narratives about the culture, are what people aren't talking about. 95% of my friends are single. Not 90, like definitely not that high, are using meth, but meth is a big problem in the community. Like they go to this sex party as an example in the movie, and everybody's like, it's a very short, it's like a minute maybe. But I'm like, if that was real life, that would be a lot fucking sketchier. Those people would be fucked up. And so yeah, like Derek, you said you'd probably relate to it. I think everybody in the theater in some way or another related to that, like what happens when you get older if you haven't found somebody. And it's a really hard conversation to have because we are not, like, in one way, we're not raised to get married and have kids, because when you're gay, even though it's legal now, for example, Evan's parents, until we got engaged, were never like, when you guys getting married? When you guys going to have kids? But if I was a woman, or if he was like, if we were in a heterosexual relationship, it would probably come up a lot. People would be like, so when are you getting married? So in some ways we have the freedom to create a whole new way of living that isn't just based on a monogamous relationship that lasts forever and ever and ever. But we're also in the same way bombarded by this narrative since we were born, that that's what you do. You fall in love with one person, you stay with them forever, and, you know, happily ever after. So it's like conflicting things. Do I create my own narrative and do I let go of that? Or do I try and find my own piece of the pie?
I have this like recurring thought just all the time that just bounces around in my head whenever I'm navigating dating or Grindr, if you like, that go it's this voice going like, life is so short. Like we're all gonna die. Are we really going to do that without like experiencing true love, without even caring? Like so many of us are not, so
Yeah.
us, I mean gay people, so many of us don't seem even interested, or it's bad timing for them, or blah blah blah. And I'm just like, how can you be so cavalier about this in your mid 30s? Like you're not getting any younger. We're just hurtling closer to death. The time we have to experience like bliss in terms of, you know, human connection, complete trust in someone, complete vulnerability, the joy of that is just, the window is getting smaller and smaller every single day. You have less time to do that every day. I don't know. Like it seems.
Well, I would say it's like in the straight community as well.
Yeah.
Just in this day and age, everyone's lonelier. Like I would have to like look at the stats, but I've been reading things online about it. It's just like we're in lonely times right now. Most of my girlfriends are single and over 45, and they've passed and had to like get over, you know, their chance of like having a child basically, and they're still looking for love. And these are fantastic, smart, beautiful women. And again, most of my friends are single. I feel like I just kind of got lucky, you know, connecting with my husband. We met at work. And I've also been reading articles on just like dating apps are just kind of like failing people too.
Yeah.
It's just like hell out there on the dating apps.
Oh my God.
I was watching a show on Netflix. It's called like Future of, and each episode's different, like future of dogs, future of apartments, and one was like future of dating. And they were talking about a concept that seems interesting. It's like next level app where whatever it is actually like tracks where you're going and will make something serendipitous, right? So if you put in, I'm going to walk to a Starbucks, it's going to take you on a route of someone who they think is your match that's also walking to a
Wow.
Starbucks and like have you meet at the same time. So I think this is still just like a concept, but
Engineered meet cutes.
but even that seems like a little bit better than like scrolling, like, because I think like we were talking earlier, people still want that rom-com serendipitous. I bumped into this guy at the Starbucks line. Like we all still kind of want that, right? Because we were like trained to like think that's how it could happen. So I think that sounded like a really fun idea. But yeah, I think we're just like a lonely world out there right now.
And Derek, those like that feeling is, I think, human. Like it's like the older you get too, the more aware you are of like, oh yeah, like I'm not going to be young forever. Eventually I will die, because you start changing, your life starts changing. You can physically see the proof that time is going by, and the older you are, the faster it goes. But I think though that the ability to like look within and say, I don't want my life to go by without experiencing this love is such a scary thing to face, because you also then have to accept that if you're able to identify that that's what you want, then you're also like accepting the fear that it might not happen. Like once you put it out there, you're like, oh God, now what if it doesn't happen? I've identified what I want. And if I can't make that happen, what's the alternative? But I think a lot of people, and this is probably where the addiction comes in, substance abuse issues, it's too scary to even go there. So it's just like, let's just skim the surface of the water for as long as possible, because I cannot even fathom scratching the surface, because once I do, it's gonna be fucking game over. It's too painful. It's too scary. And then the older you get, the harder it is to go in. Like, oh my God. That's such a big idea. Life is short. We're all gonna die. I want to experience love while I'm here.
And
Is there a more profound thought?
Sorry, I should have let that land for a beat.
No. It's just like
it's so profound.
It's such a big thought, and I think not a lot of people can look at that.
And how can there be so many people feeling this way but unable to connect with each other?
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I have no friggin' idea. Like,
well, connecting it to like the spiritual community, like I feel like a lot more people are spiritual, and that's all like go within, instead of like, I don't know, when you're feeling down, meet up with your community, form a community. So our culture has now again gone to, I need to improve the self. I need to love myself. Let me go within. Let me, take time to reflect and meditate, instead of let me build a community. Let me hang out with my friends more. Even myself, I would think, okay, if I'm down or something, I don't want to put that burden on my friends. So let me shut them out for a little bit. And I think that's like spiraling and creating our lonely universe.
And it's possibly false connection. You think you have this community online, but it's not real. And so I think we talked about this a few episodes ago about like quiet quitting, and how we're just not able to have the hard conversations. It's becoming harder and harder to have traditionally hard conversations. Talking to your boss about a raise, talking about a promotion, telling them you're not happy, and meeting somebody that you like and saying, I like you. I'd like to spend some time with you, one-on-one, sober, without all your friends, and not just fucking, like.
And because of all this self stuff, I'm pointing at where Jessica is on my Zoom. Because of all this self stuff that you're talking about, there's also kind of emerged this narrative of like, you don't ever have to be uncomfortable, which kind of compounds the stuff that Peter's talking about,
Well, and true. I mean, like, we are moving into a place where like, if you have any type of uncomfortable feeling about anything, real perceived threat or not, real threat or not, it's like, we are trying to make safe spaces in every sense of the word for so many different types of experiences that are not true to what life is like. And speaking of like the future of where this all leads, like the metaverse, which I've been low-key obsessed with because I work in tech now. And so I've uncovered a new passion for like mostly around the future of work, like how are our jobs and day-to-day lives going to change. But this really bridges to when we are at a place where not only are you identifying as a avatar and a digital self, you can have multiple identities. And so you are living in a virtual space. Maybe you choose to be a dragon and Puff the Magic Dragon, and you're floating through whatever world you choose to be on the metaverse at that day. You can conduct business, you can work, you can create relationships, but it's completely digital. So what happens when this loneliness is exasperated by a perceived release, I guess, that would be like, oh my God, now we're even more connected because we can go to the metaverse and like I'm meeting all these people and I can be my true self. But then you unplug and it's like, oh, like the ultimate come down. I can't even fucking imagine. And we're lucky that we're in our 30s now, because by the time that's completely embedded into our lives, we'll be like getting closer to like stopping working, I think. Like, I don't think it's going to be like 5 years. I think it'll be like 10, 20 when it's everything is in the metaverse. But the kids, oh my God, what is even the idea of connection going to be if everything is focused on our perfect projected idea of your self-image into the metaverse that is interacting with other people's perfected idea of who they are, but in real life we're all going to bed alone.
Is it going to be the perfect self? Can I go in the metaverse and be my crazy self and like let that unleash?
Oh
no, you'll get a
because
suspension.
I need to keep that all in day to day.
Do you know what?
Wow.
Actually, you probably will have like VR experiences where you can go and live out your murder fantasies, Jess, if you need to. Completely safely.
Just say it, Jess. Just say it. Well, like if I was growing up in a place where the metaverse had like, is it your best self, Jess? That's a good question. If I was growing up and I had it, if I could have an experience in the metaverse where I was a celebrity and people were taking my picture all the time, and that was giving me the whatever it was I was looking for, I wouldn't maybe need to do anything else. I would just get that fix and then whatever. Like sex too. Like if you can live out any sexual fantasy with any fucking person on the planet in the metaverse, why the fuck would you want to have regular sex?
I honestly, look, I don't, you know that I'm not a fan of like slippery slope. What will technology, how will it change our lives?
Yeah.
And how will we be dependent on technology, right? Like, I think that just like the internet of present date and time, the ability to like to fulfill sexual fantasies in, you know, the eventual immersive metaverse that I do think is coming and I do think will be a reality. I don't think that experience will be any different than going in a furry chat room today. You know, I think it gives people who really, you know, aren't able to like access the people they want to have sex with in the real world or the types of sex they want to have, you know, trans, furry, chat rooms, whatever. It's going to function exactly the same way and probably be a good thing for society in that sense, because like those forums already connect people with pretty unique interests that can't find each other in the real world in a way that I think is healthy. I do think that we're going to end up with a super immersive like VR metaverse that lots of people spend time on and get addicted to in a way that's no different than the internet that we already have, right? I don't think it'll create necessarily an increased number of people who are dependent. We're already sort of seeing the types of people who can become dependent, the otaku nerds who can get sucked into the internet to the detriment of their real life, right? I don't know that will necessarily increase, perhaps a little bit. I suppose statistically it makes sense for it to increase a little bit, but I don't like worry that we're all going to become like I use the Wall-E sort of automatons with tiny skeletons floating around in hover chairs. Like, I don't think this is going to happen. So yeah.
This is reminding me, have you guys seen the show Upload?
Oh, and
Amazon?
The end to that thought that I totally lost the tail end of was we've already had VR video games and they didn't catch on. No one wants to fucking play VR video games, even though they're extremely sophisticated. This is why I don't think we have to worry about an immersive metaverse stealing our lives from us. Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
No, it's reminding me of the show Upload that's on Amazon. It's kind of like a cute show, but it's more like when you die, you can pay for your consciousness to get uploaded, but people that are living can also be uploaded as well. So just really reminding me of that, because you can be this completely different person and still be living and having sex with someone, as long as your consciousness is uploaded. I feel like that could be a future as well. And I feel like I've heard metaverse stuff happening within that. So yeah, definitely check out the show. But it's a little scary.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm not opposed to the idea of uploading consciousness, just because I think it would alleviate a lot of the anxieties around death. I don't, how do you say it? Similarly. The suicide fucking things in Switzerland, they're like coffins, but they're pretty. They're like, they have windows. They're like little pods, suicide pods. And you go in and they ask you a series of questions, like 3 questions. You press the button, it sucks the oxygen out of the room, fills it with nitrous, I think. You get all giggly and then you die. And then the pod can be used as a coffin and is biodegradable or something. I don't fucking know. So you can go to the ocean, decide now's your time, and you can do that. You're not going to be in pain. You have the power. And I think that will alleviate, like for me, I'm like, okay, if it ever gets so bad, whether with illness or the world goes to shit, there are going to be accessible options to end your life. And I think with uploading consciousness, the same thing is like, maybe the anxieties about losing somebody, maybe not yourself. Like, I don't know if I love the idea of me personally being alive in the internet forever, but if Evan was going to die and I could upload a version of him that I could somehow have his presence in my life, I would definitely, it would be very hard to say no. Yeah. Very, very hard.
There's a future of episode on death as well. Y'all need to watch that whole series.
It's wild.
You'll be able to copy Evan's consciousness into like an android or a body pillow or both. It'll be like, hey, Alexa, like turn on my Evan body pillow. I'm going to bed.
Oh, except he doesn't like cuddling, so
nothing
will change.
It's on the other side of the bed. Like, don't touch me. That's what it says.
Yeah, exactly.
It says you're too hot.
No, we hold hands. We don't cuddle, but we hold hands.
Steve's arm is too heavy, so if he puts it around me, I'm just like, get her off.
I'm dying. You're too heavy. What was I going to say about the uploading consciousness in the metaverse? The other interesting thing that in the podcast I was listening to is, and I love this because, I the anarchist in me is like, fuck corporations. Everybody who's a billionaire needs to die. And it comes out sometimes. And they were talking about how the Fortune 500 companies that have taken so long to just wrap their minds around what it means to be on social media and how they can use that to generate more money and how to use it to their advantage. And they finally fucking started figuring out, are gonna have to start all over again with the metaverse. And it makes me so fucking happy that like technology is adapting faster than capitalism can keep up. So there isn't a way to exploit it instantly. And similar to social media, remember, there was a beautiful phase with fucking MySpace and Facebook where it really felt like, oh my God, I can express myself. I can stay connected. That long lost friend I forgot about. It was a short window, but it was there. And corporations hadn't yet figured out how to like fucking capitalize on it and manipulate it and blah, blah, blah. So I love that part of technology, that it keeps capitalism on its toes, and it evolves so fast that we have these moments of freedom where it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Cause it's like release freedom from like the constraints of what our society is right now. But then of course they'll figure out a way to exploit it. But hopefully the rate is so quickly that the periods of release are more frequent and not so Like social media right now, you guys know I say this all the time, feels suffocating to me. And it feels like pointless. It feels absolutely when I think it's, as an example, everybody on my personal Instagram knows that I have the podcast, right? So if I post about it all the time, it will remind them, but it's not going to reach new people. And influencers are saying now that like the algorithms are completely fucked. A few of the drag queens that I represent have massive followings, and they say this all the time. Like they're just not reaching people anymore. Like, how can you have 5 million followers and get 40 likes? What? How does that make sense? Like that does, like, the content isn't so bad that people are just not liking it. Yeah.
Doesn't that usually indicate bot followers though?
I don't know. That's not a question I'm willing to ask that particular person.
Okay.
I know there was like a shadow ban thing. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of conspirituality podcast, and their shit never comes up on my feed. I literally have to keep searching for it and type out their whole name for it to come up.
That happens when I tag you both too. Sometimes, like I have to like type out every single thing, and you don't just pop up. It's like
we're being silenced.
Yeah, because we're too spiritual and we're too enlightened.
No, we're too disruptive to the status quo.
Oh,
Biden wants us silenced.
You know, the whole thing that we were going to talk about today, we haven't even talked about Bling Ring.
I really want to talk about it.
Okay. Jess, you want to start because you're the one who texted me.
Well, we were talking about moving to LA before, so I did think that was, you know.
Oh, that was the bridge. Well,
that was kind of a bridge. Because LA is crazy. And so Bling Ring is a new documentary on Netflix. I think there was actually also a movie about it, about these LA teenagers that started breaking into celebrities' homes via Instagram, the internet, MySpace, like actually seeing when people were home or not. And I just thought this was the perfect thing for us to all watch, because when I started watching it, I was like, oh shit. One of the moms is actually like full on manifestation babe, the secret worshiper. And it was just ridiculous, like seeing their kind of like rituals around manifesting for wealth only, pretty much just like success, wealth. So the whole thing was about spirituality and fame and how to get famous. So it's so intriguing to me to even see these people who did some minor jail time, but still coming out and watching the movie about themselves and being bummed on who played them in the movie, still wanting that fame. And it really showed a good picture of like how LA is. I do think LA is super crazy. I'm kind of happy I don't live there. And definitely wanted y'all's thoughts on it. Just thought it was kind of the perfect thing for our pod.
I mean, Derek, do you want to go or do you want me to go first?
No, I better go last.
So I'm very familiar with the Bling Ring, obviously. I remember the movie, I remember the story. I'm sorry, I just have to tell you something. This is a little tangent, but I just got this message on Instagram of a friend who's posting that they are an Indigenous owned and operated Canadian business, and she is as white snow. And I have no idea why she's saying she's Indigenous. It's just tripping me out.
Well, a lot of Indigenous people are white passing. Do you think?
No. I grew up with her.
Oh, so
I know.
How do you, is it possible she discovered some like heritage later in life?
I guess it's possible.
Like a relative?
We need to investigate for the next
because
step.
like, yeah, we kind of grant, I don't know if she's claiming status, but we do grant status for like a blood quantum.
Maybe it's her parents are her parents. Anyway, sorry. Bling Ring. Okay, so I actually wasn't gonna watch the documentary because I know the story, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm on this whole thing right now where like I'm only watching Housewives one episode on Saturday. I'm on my social media diet, so I'm really trying to like be more conscious of what I'm consuming. And so when I saw it, I was like, I don't need another like Hollywood fucking. I've done that enough. But then multiple people texted me, including one person from my work who said, "Oh my God, this reminds me so much of you, Jess. You texted me," so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. As soon as it fucking starts, I'm like, similar to what Bros did to me, where it made me super self-aware of like the type of person I was and the experiences I've had. It is so annoying that now, with some distance from that 2007 to 2012 paparazzi culture, we're realizing that every single gay boy or young fame obsessed person, it wasn't okay. My fame obsession and my belief that I was going to be famous was not unique to me. It was because we were bombarded by these images and these shows,
Yes.
and it was all about famous for being famous. Not saying every single person born in that time was subscribing to that narrative, but now we're seeing how common it was and how much value we were putting on celebrity. And so when I'm watching it, I'm like, this is so annoying, because I feel like it makes my own journey feel so less special and so less unique. But also, you know, that's been the whole journey of like this podcast for sure, is like trying to unpack all that. And I also used to break into cars when I was a fucking teenager, and I would get fucked up, and I mean, maybe this happened twice, but just wild, and like had this like, oh my God, so much energy inside of myself that I needed to unleash. And like, you know, never stole a car, never did anything like that. But like, yeah, would be drunk and check cars. And maybe I never remember having like a wallet or anything like that. It was more just like opening the car and the alarm would go off and you would run away. Harmless in the context of the bling ring, but super related to, like, I super related to those kids. If I had been born in Hollywood and went to that fucking high school where everybody was rich and famous, you can bet your ass I'd be leading the bling ring. I would probably still be squatting in Paris Hilton's house as we speak, because I would be so compelled and have so much access that there would be no way I would fucking stop. Then when the mom starts fucking talking about The Secret, I'm like, this, I totally had forgotten about that whole part of the story, about that whole reality show, Pretty Wild, with Alexis Nyers and the whole secret thing. And they would wake up every morning and they would do their manifestation chants. And when I started getting into manifesting, it was around this time, shocking. My friends would reference like Parker and Chase and all the people I used to throw parties with would use that as a reference. And that mom is just, the way that they cut it, they made her look so irresponsible. Like it was just fame at all costs. And she wanted her kids to be on TV, and she didn't care that they were partying. She didn't care that they were 15 on private jets. They were just like manifesting this lifestyle. And how even now, after all the shit went down, you can fucking tell they don't care. They're happy that there's a Netflix documentary. They really didn't get into any serious trouble. They got to be these huge media darlings. They got to be the scandalous figures in Hollywood that they were trying to be. And they got instant access to all these celebrities: Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, Audrina from the Hills, Orlando Bloom, all talking about these kids suddenly, right? Like, it is exactly what they wanted. And so in a way, manifesting, they did manifest that Hollywood experience.
Right.
But I do think, like, I left the documentary, I didn't feel bad for the celebrities, I didn't feel bad for the kids. I was like, this is just like, it's sort of like they need each other. Like, Paris let them film in her house for the movie. Like, what the fuck? She is like the prime example of, it doesn't matter what they're saying as long as they're saying it. These kids are feeding into that, so they're breaking into the houses to continue this thing. And the celebrities are like still staying in the tabloids and as a news headline because it's happening to them. So it's like they're just eating each other. It's just like this
But
cannibalistic.
it's almost a story of like
Yeah.
loneliness and wanting to be accepted too, in regards
Oh,
to, I
yeah.
forget everyone's names, but the guy and the girl who first started like breaking
Nick.
into cars. So Nick and the very first girl, who it seemed like she was the ring master of all of this, who wasn't in the documentary, because he kind of claimed that he was scared if he stopped, he would lose her friendship,
Yeah.
because he struggled making friends.
I didn't buy
Again,
that. I
he
didn't
was the
buy
poor
that.
kid. No, okay.
No.
Well,
I mean, yeah, maybe there was part of him, like, sure, yeah, maybe part of him was like sad and lonely. Who fucking isn't when they're 16?
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I
isn't
mean,
that
that's
part
not
of
the
it?
only reason he did
that
it.
that claim of his seemed really inconsistent with like the other stuff he, like the way he portrayed himself in the rest of the doc, where he was like, I was the leader, like and he was like offended that they didn't portray him as the leader in the movie and shit. Like, that doesn't seem very consistent with him just being, I was just doing it for friends. Like, okay.
And the other woman, she just seemed she was like she was lying the whole time because everything
Alexis?
she said contradicted with like what her mom was saying and what Nick was saying. Like she had her own story, in denial, did not want to tell the truth.
Oh my God, I'm so annoyed by it.
It was so insane.
Yeah, I didn't buy any of the, like, they were all knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't get into any trouble. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a show that starts now, like them reconciling, right? And then they're all gonna meet and talk about it.
Did you guys not think then that Alexis seemed not very involved? It seemed to me like she did like one robbery with them.
She
So I don't
did
know why
one-
she would be like lying about. She seemed way more honest and trustworthy to me than the guy did.
The only thing that Alexis had going for her is that she's been sober for 11 years, and she did seem to be able to, I don't know, articulate who she was better than I felt Nick did. And that might just be she's more comfortable in front of the cameras, but she did have a smaller role for sure. But she had a whole reality show based on this. So I don't know.
The reality show happened to film at the time she was arrested. It wasn't based on that. They had conceived of this reality show before that ever even took place.
I think in the context of the Bling ring and the actual robberies, she did have a smaller piece, 100%.
But Nick said she did as well.
Yeah, but
Like,
leading up to it, she
yeah.
was hard partying Hollywood it girl.
She tried
who wanted
to
be
blame
famous.
drugs.
Drug addict, yeah.
Yeah.
She tried to blame drugs, like she was on drugs, so she didn't
But
really knew
is
what
that
was
not
going
extremely
on.
plausible? Is it not extremely plausible that she like she did this one robbery, which is the only one that she ever did, not because she's driven to rob celebrities, but because she needed a fix?
No, that is
Yes.
plausible.
Yes, totally is plausible. But leading up to it, there was a huge driver for becoming famous. And now I think one of the things she articulated well was like, the fame, I wanted people to validate me for the first time in my life or whatever it was, which I can relate to. That's why you crave the attention of the entire world, because you don't feel like you're getting it from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that it seems like a part of her appreciated the attention like post robbery. And a part of her going into it may have like been enticed by that aspect of it as well. But she only did like one or two. So it doesn't seem to me that that was important enough to get her to keep doing it. It doesn't seem that to me was the way she felt like she was going to chase her fame.
Mm. I also think too, when the show happened, she was pretty into the drugs, and that show probably wouldn't have gone anywhere anyway, because it's hard to do anything when you're doing that many drugs. So I think it was like, she wasn't necessarily motivated to keep doing the Bling ring. I think she was wrong place, right time in a way, because it did capitalize on what she had originally wanted. Whether or not she had intended to be part of this particular scandal, maybe not, but she was also dancing naked behind Marilyn Manson underage doing an 8-ball of coke, which is also quite scandalous. So I think it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I'm just talking about what the appearance of her like relative honesty compared with Nick, right? I don't think she lied at all. I don't think she at any point ever like obscured her interest in fame. Right.
The parts where they were kind of going back and forth, where he was like, she knew I wasn't a stylist, and she's like, no, I totally thought he was just a stylist. I'm like, oh my God, you knew.
Oh, and she said she didn't know that the clothes were stolen, and he was like, they knew where the clothes were coming
those
from.
Were like some. I'm like, oh, there's so much, like everyone has their own different story.
This is kind of like Erica Jane, but she may have sensed that it was not coming from the right place, but she may not have explicitly asked or found out exactly where they were sourced.
Yeah, and I think that her lies, if those were lies, which sure, I mean, I don't think that has any bearing on like the crimes themselves. Those lies, whether she told those lies or not, it seemed really petty of the Nick guy to be like, well, she's lying about that, because it has no effect on anything. So what? Who cares? So she knew that. So like, what's that got to do with the crimes? It doesn't mean she was as complicit as he was, or as interested in being a criminal as he was, which is what he seems to imply by saying she was lying. But she never accuses him of stretching the truth or anything. So it just seems to me she's more interested in maybe not clearing her name, because that's like impossible, but in telling her truth than he is. He really seems to be milking just another moment, right?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they did say that he was jealous of the reality show, right? Like I mean, he did say when they first started robbing, it wasn't about being close to the famous people. It wasn't about Lindsay Lohan. It wasn't about Hollywood, but really, you just happened to choose those people in 2009 when they were the most famous people on the planet. And then maybe it's two stories, right? It's like the true crime story, and then it's the story of these kids who are obsessed with fame and the various ways the crime feeds that for
Well, and it
each
was about
person.
knowing when they weren't at home, you know,
Mhm.
because like you could go rob, I don't know, some tech CEO, but you have no way of knowing if he's home or not, you know.
And it's a little like Robin Hoodish, right? Like they're rich. They're not going to notice like these handbags with like tags still on it missing. You know, they have so much stuff. We're the
Paris
poor.
literally didn't notice.
Yeah.
They
It's
robbed
so-
her 5 times.
Yeah.
5
Wait,
times.
do you guys
But-
leave your doors unlocked? Like, I don't know, just
No,
crazy.
I
Like,
couldn't
never in my
believe.
life would I.
Yeah, I
But
couldn't
this is
believe
just
that.
like there is no context to bad things happening when you are like that. Like, and also the best line was when they said they stole Paris's Coke and it was the best Coke he'd ever done. Oh my
And
God.
she's
That was like my
I
dream.
never had any Coke.
I never did
At the
Coke,
end,
that's a lie.
it's like the thing on the screen, but her lawyer denies that there were ever any illicit drugs. Okay.
Okay, Paris.
But I don't disagree, or I don't agree.
Wait,
that they're, like,
did either of you feel bad for the celebrities?
that's what I was just gonna say. Like, absolutely, yeah. I do think these were victims of crime. Like they objectively were, and their houses were violated. I mean, you saw Adrena Patridge, at least, if nobody else, talking about how violated and scared she was. And you would be. I think Paris just didn't notice, but I think probably when she found out, she felt scared. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? I mean, it's your home, and
Yeah,
you're
I
not
felt a little bad.
totally violating. And you know, I think about Peter. Both Kyle and Dorit have been robbed on Real Housewives, I
Mhm.
think. And both of
Mhm.
them have had that reaction, right? They were like, I can't even live in this house anymore. You know,
I don't really believe Dorit, but yeah.
she was robbed at gunpoint. There's camera evidence. What do you mean you don't believe her? She feared
I
for her
don't know.
children's lives. What is there not to believe?
I don't know. There's something about it that
I see no
I
reason
don't know.
whatsoever. And there's
I
camera
don't have an
evidence.
explanation.
You think she's
other
making
than,
up her being held at gunpoint and begging them not to hurt her children?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I know that it happened. There definitely was a robbery. I'm not denying that. I have no proof. I'm just telling
You
you.
think she's faking how scary that would be for a woman with 2 children?
I
Her
just
husband's
was
away.
like, wow, on the first day of filming, you get robbed and they didn't actually hurt you. They just stole stuff.
No, it wasn't even on I don't even know if it was on the first day of film. I guess it was. It did coincide. I guess they were filming like the next day. Yeah.
And like,
But I don't. That's just sometimes those things happen. Like it's not.
Somebody
Doesn't mean
had said
a setup.
to me was if it was for insurance money, but she wasn't supposed to be home and she was. That's the only thing. And again, I'm not claiming, I'm just telling you as a fan who's obsessed with Housewives, when I saw that scene, my spidey senses were like, it doesn't seem right. Kyle's, yeah, I don't know. Could be completely wrong. I'm an awful person. I'm sorry. Poor Dorit. But you're right. They did have those reactions. Kyle too. And Kyle too. Like it was a completely different off season, no cameras. She got robbed.
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian flashing her fucking jewels and then gets robbed in her hotel in Paris. And they said, if you didn't put your jewels and tell everybody where you were at every single second, we wouldn't have done it. So yeah, it's obviously traumatizing to people who experience that, whether they're famous, rich or not. Because it's and Audrina did say, like, look, I was on TV. Everybody knew where I lived. They knew what my house was like. And it felt like a set, but she did still have a boundary. Like she was letting them film her, but she wasn't letting any random person come into her house. Like, even though the perception is we have all access, there are still lots of boundaries to what
consent.
you can do. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Consent
Jesus.
is sexy.
Well,
Anywho, I thought the documentary was terrible and I hated it.
Did you watch
the
all 3
story
acts?
of it or the documentary?
Yeah, no, I don't hate the story. It's a thing that happened, but I hated the documentary for a lot of
What
reasons.
was so horrible about
I can
the
see no
documentary?
reason why it should have been made. Like, why are we making a documentary about this thing that's been extensively covered
Just
in the
like
press and in a movie?
just like the
And
Dahmer movie.
in a
Hello.
framing
Why?
device that repeatedly glorifies these two individuals. Like, why was there the framing device of like them starting every scene with a voiceover? Like, all right, that's enough of Nick. Back
Totally.
to me. Like,
Yes.
like this is some
Yes.
like it's a like it isn't.
Reality
And
show.
then they drop that framing device like halfway through the second episode and never pick it up again. Why is there the like cheesy realtor also participating in this weird narrative?
Oh yeah, that was
framing?
funny.
He's from $1 Million Listing.
I just thought it was really like dumb.
I think
and
they were making a comment on like,
I don't think it worked because the documentary is falling into the exact same trap of glorifying all this behavior and these two people as the thing they're trying to criticize. They're like, media, you know,
Well, I like how
has
they
bad
stripped
values.
away.
Media has bad values and elevates, people for any reason, even a bad reason. And this media is doing exactly that and slapping like all these sparkly, glittery, like trappings on it, like the voiceover, like the modeling, like interludes where they're in front of like the white screen, the really cringy, weird, like hacker shots where he's got the pen hanging out of his mouth and like the Matrix text comes up. Where does Lindsay Lohan live? Like, it's doing the thing it's criticizing. It's so corny.
But then I feel like at the end they stripped away, like, I don't know, it was a moment for me when they stripped away the green screen background. I was speaking to my brother yesterday and I thought the same thing. And like the whole time I was like, oh, they all look like they're pretty well off now, because they had this fancy houses in the background and then it was just a green screen. So did they do kind of those cheesy things or whatever throughout the whole documentary just to like have that ending of like strip away?
Yes,
like
I think
actually
so.
these people are nothing.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think they did. That was the intention, but I think it totally missed because what are they saying by doing that? They're saying, actually, this is all an artifice and none of it's real. Yeah, we know. That's what the whole
Some
documentary
people
is
don't
about.
know.
I thought they were
No,
their
I'm not.
house.
I'm not saying that I knew the backdrops weren't real. I'm just saying what they're communicating by fading to green screen is it's actually not real. Like, yeah, that's the whole documentary has been about that artifice, and then they just at the end they go, guess what, artifice. We're like, yeah, we know that's been the whole point. There's not a moment of this documentary hasn't been beating us over the head with the fact that it's all artificial. Like, it just seems so corny.
The whole time I was just kind of shocked. It seemed like nobody really did time for that. Minimal time.
That's true. But were they all minors? I think they were, right?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
18 in Canada.
Yeah. So under 21, right? So, well, I'm not sure. It probably depends on states. Maybe Jess knows if you can be 18 and charged as an adult.
Jess.
You can in some states.
Yeah. Okay. It depends. Yeah. But yeah, no, that was interesting because like I thought it was interesting. They did keep putting up the time you would serve as an adult. And I'm like, these people have done hundreds of years worth of crimes.
Right.
And they're just going to get 3 to 6 months like that they actually end up serving in jail, not even in prison, right? Like in county jail.
Right.
Yeah.
I just remember.
Thanks for watching, Derek.
Yeah.
I did it as homework. In the last episode, I put it on 1.5 speed because I was like, this is so boring.
Oh my God, you hated it.
I should have said you just need to watch the first one. All you needed to know is the bling ring story and then see the mom talking about the secret. That's all. That's it.
Yeah,
then
I wish
this is superficial spirit. Hey,
I wish that had more to do with it, but I guess it just at least it pointed out like that other people see this connection that you see, Peter, with manifesting and fame, desperation, or whatever.
That's right. I wanted to actually tell a quick story before we wrap up because I realized that I never told you, Derek, about being banned from OTV.
No, oh my God, I need to know.
Many years ago, I was just in the I was just starting out. Had I released any music yet? I must have released something. I had been on the cover of Extra West the first time. I think this is after I had like a float in the Pride Parade. So
what do you mean you had a float, your own float?
Hello. It said Peter Breeze in giant fucking letters, and I was in a fucking bird cage dressed like a bird of paradise. I can find one.
Yeah, you have to post the picture. with this
I'm not going
episode
to find it
drop?
right now, but I will find it. It's there. Anyway, so I was definitely like starting to make a name for myself. And I had been in touch with OutTV a few times because I wanted to do a show with them. Like I think I definitely had meetings with at least one producer about doing a reality show about my life. And that was completely like they were not reaching out to me. I was reaching out to them. Super friendly. There was a girl named Nikki there who was such a supportive, helpful, like sort of help me see what the process would be like. And when I would go to events, they would fucking I think it was Connie Smudge used to interview people at the club, always would come up to me, film me, talk to me. Then I get a call from somebody at OTV and they said they have this new psychic show and they're looking for people to come in and be audience members.
Oh, I did that show.
Okay, so the medium show. And it was kind of like the girl who was like, "You are the weakest link. Goodbye." She had that vibe, I think.
I don't remember. I just remember she was like overweight and had really curly hair, right?
Oh, very different what I remember. That's funny.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, but whatever. So I agree. And they're like, can you bring, and I'm like, this is actually great because my dad died when I was 9. I don't know if I told them that on the phone call, but I agreed to go. And I brought some friends. We had gone out the night before. We were so hungover and tired, but we were young. So it rolls off the fucking back. I film. We are in the green room first laughing, just like, this is so fun. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Then we film. I start crying. The medium is like, I'm picking up on, whatever, my dad. She was like, I'm seeing like he's looking through newspapers. And I was like, I was just on the cover of the newspaper. So very emotional for me in the moment, sobbing. My sister was there crying. My friends are crying. It was fucking a really big moment. Okay.
I think we were at the same filming, Peter, because I remember that was the first time I saw your sister.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, okay, you were there. You were there at scene of the crime. I leave, and the next day, I get a call from my friend David C. Jones, who I love. And he was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm just going to tell you because you're my friend, and I think that you need to know this. And I was like, okay. And he was like, when you were on set yesterday, everybody was saying that you were high on coke and that you were doing coke on set. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, they were in the, you and your friends were being really loud and obnoxious when you got there. I was like, okay, we're like 23 years old. We're going to be on this fucking weird TV show. We were giddy. We were hungover, whatever. That I think started it. Like they were like, is Peter Breeze fucked up, or are they drunk, or are they whatever? We weren't. We were fucking sober. And then this is exactly what David C. Jones says. They were watching me in the monitor and watching me like wipe my nose or like sniff and like counting how many times I did it. And I can't remember if on that phone call, David C. Jones was like, they're not going to use it, or you're not going to be on the show or something. But it was really emotional because I was like, oh my God, this is so mortifying. At the time I was partying, not at the studio, but in that time in my life. So it's not beyond a reason. Like, it's understandable that if people had heard of me, they may have been like, that's possible. But soon after that, they started the Homorazzi show that Tommy D was on, and other people. Tommy D was also managing me at the time. And anytime I would have a release, he would bring it up and they're like, you can't talk about Peter Breeze. You can't talk about Peter Breeze. And he had been explicitly told, like, no, there's no Peter Breeze. We don't want to talk about him on the show. We don't want to talk about at OTV. It's like, no Peter Breeze. And I'd heard that from him and one other person. I can't remember the other person, similar in the production world. And it all goes back to that somebody said that I was partying. And like, I look back now and I'm like, that's what I wanted to be like Lindsay Lohan. So in a way that was like a very Lindsay Lohan problem, but it was so sad for me because I worked my ass off to try and like get myself going in Vancouver, and OutTV was the only queer fucking TV thing. And had that not had happened, a make-believe situation, then maybe I could have been on Homorazzi as a host, or maybe I could have done something down the road. But yeah, they refused to do anything with me for a long time, which was weird because I was such a big part of the community at that time. Why wouldn't they have capitalized on it, or at least included me in fucking something?
So you didn't like say to anyone? I mean, I know Nikki,
I sent
you didn't email
emails.
her like, I can't, but like
I
this
did
isn't
ask
true.
Nikki.
Like,
I did ask Nikki, and she was like, "I don't know," because it was the guy. I can't remember the leader, the like owner.
is it Paul blah, blah, something? Paul
Maybe
blah, blah.
because Nikki was like, "Peter, I really like you. I don't really know what the issue is," and Tommy was like, "I've tried to talk to him, but it's like that guy was like fucking hard stop no." And yes, I did try and talk to Nikki and everybody about it, but it never went anywhere.
I'm just that it's gonna
I'm
bother me that I
sad for
can't
you.
remember that producer's
Do you
name.
think he had like any like jealousy or whatever issues? Where
I
he's
rubbed a
just
lot
like,
of people the wrong way back then.
I
I
don't
mean, I
like
was
this guy.
pretty
Okay.
full of myself. I was fucking shameless about what I wanted. I was like a hard partying twink who wanted to be famous. And I told everybody with ears that that's what I was going to do. And I think it just rubbed some people the wrong way. That could be part of it. I could have also done something to him at a club that I don't remember that he didn't like. That is 100% possible because I was a nightmare some nights, spilling drinks on people, screaming at people. Like, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that I could have done that to him. But fucking talk to me about it then. Don't hide, like avoid me and not tell me.
I thought you were going to say, and then Homorazzi came on, and they were all always high.
No,
I
wish
that's tea.
That's the tea on that Tina, honey. Okay, I
well,
just got
that's
a notification. My headphones are going to die. So
okay.
I just wanted to let you know that we have to wrap it up soon. But that's the story about being banned from Out TV.
I'm sad.
Maybe
for
I'll
you.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't need them. I don't need them. They
Scandal.
don't need me. It's done.
I actually think they do need cheap programming.
Yeah.
Do you know that they still run the short? I think they run the short film that I was in for Hot Pink Shorts every day, multiple times a day.
Let's review it.
No, let's kill it. Get it out of there.
Who watches Out TV? Like, do they have a big subscription base?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it increases while Drag Race is on and then drops back down, you know?
Yes. I watch Drag Race on Crave.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
OutTV is cheaper. So if I want to watch it and it's on OutTV, then I pay $4.99 for OutTV instead of like $8.99 for Crave.
So wait, what do you buy subscriptions to then? Do you just have Netflix?
I have Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's been a slice, y'all. Thank you so much for talking. We talked for a long time today.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. We'll be back next week.
Any
Or will
reviews?
we? Oh shit. I didn't pull one. I'm sorry. My headphones are gonna die. We have to wait. I'll do 2 next week to make up for it. Because I don't want my headphones to stop while I'm doing it. But yeah, thanks for chatting about everything, and I'll see you guys next week.
Love you.
Bye.